Hey everyone, we're going to get started in about 4 minutes. Just to give everyone a chance to dial in here, I think we're going to start at 11:05. Hi everyone, we're going to kick things off in about 2 minutes. All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar of the year. My name is Annika, and today we're going to discuss how immersive visualization technologies such as photorealistic 2D, interactive 3D, and augmented reality are transforming the way that businesses sell their products online. I have Ben and Todd joining me to walk us through the basics and show us some examples. So by the end of this webinar, you'll have a feel for what's possible and what a visualization project takes. We're going to start by talking about modern e-commerce, the buyer experience gap, and how technology can help you bridge that gap. We'll see the Threekit product in action, introduce product readiness, and finish with your questions. You can submit questions at any time by clicking on Q&A at the bottom of your screen within Zoom. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben.
Awesome. Thanks, Annika. And I'll start off by saying thanks, everybody, for joining in on the webinar here today. As Annika mentioned, my name is Ben Whitmer. I'm an account executive here with the Threekit team. And, when we really start talking about visualization, I think, if we're going to up-level this by a little bit here, there's a transformation that's really happening in the market here today. As digital commerce grows in popularity, consumers really have endless possibilities at their fingertips. And traditional retailers really need to find a way to differentiate and drive in-store results, but in a digital landscape. So, if you kind of take a step back, if you will, and kind of compare the two experiences, right? So digital commerce has endless flexibility. You can compare multiple options at multiple price points, but it's missing really the key involved in most product sales in a B2C environment. If you think about a brick and mortar store, why deals are converting, why customers are paying you money is because they can experience your products. They can touch and feel and engage with them. It's a tactile experience. And it's the consumer's ability to interact with a product that really drives that core conversion. And that's why you start to see such a stark difference when it comes to brick and mortar transactions versus digital transactions and what it means for your business. In a brick and mortar experience, conversion rates are significantly higher. The amount of returns that you see as a business are significantly lower. And the likelihood that you'll get a repeat purchase out of a transaction is much higher than that of a digital commerce landscape. And part of the basis for this is that the buyer is fundamentally changing in how they go through the steps that they do when they're looking to make any type of purchase decision. So with the growth of digital commerce and maybe in a traditional product sale, you kind of only see a limited amount of steps that a buyer would go through. Whether they were shopping casually or they were shopping with intent, they would go to a store, they'd browse, and they'd purchase something from that business. But in a digital environment, you have way more information at your fingertips, right? Your consumers are being hit by ads, they're reading reviews, they're comparing, different price points from your brand versus competing brands. And if you can't differentiate yourself as a business and offer that personalization, there's no way that a customer is going to be able to tell the difference between, a $20 shirt that's sold by your competitor or the $100 shirt that you manufacture that's of a different quality. And this is really why personalization and customization that's involved in interactive 3D becomes so important. Because when a buyer can experience a product, you can truly differentiate how your product compares to all other products that are offered online. And with that tactile behavior, I know that we're talking about touch and feel, but when we start looking at these demos here, you're going to get an indication of what we talk about by creating these interactive 3D experiences. But it's driving a significant transformation in digital commerce sales by giving that tactile experience to buyers. Our customers leveraging the Threekit platform are seeing some pretty significant results when it comes to the core pitfalls of digital commerce. They're seeing, higher conversion rates from online sales, a significant reduction in the amount of returns that they experience from online transactions. And fundamentally, they're actually experiencing higher order value than they even would from an in-store type of purchase. Because with the customization and personalization that you can introduce with interactive 3D configuration, consumers are getting to experience and say, I know what this additional upcharge is all about, and I'm willing to pay for it. Kind of think about it if you were going to go buy a bouquet of flowers for your spouse with Valentine's Day coming up. If you had the capacity to say, I want to buy this $5 note that's going to be attached, and I can see how it's going to be handwritten and placed in the bouquet, you're much more likely to ultimately sign up for that extra $5 charge if you know how it's going to be presented to your gift recipient. And so our customers are experiencing that in all product sales, which is pretty impactful. But today, we wanted to kind of have the technology show off what you can do by creating these types of immersive commerce experiences. And so we've come prepared to kind of show a couple different iterations here today as a part of the process. The first illustration that we thought to really show off is for a customer of ours called Zenith Helmet. So those of you that might not be familiar with Zenith, Zenith is a high-end sporting goods manufacturer. They create different types of equipment, such as this football helmet that you see in front of you, and have a lot of patented types of technology that goes into the products that they produce. Now, before we get into the idea of personalization and customization or different ways that you can show content to consumers to help guide them towards a transaction, I really just want to hone in on the idea of digital fidelity, because this is what drives that type of transaction, is creating a tactile touch and feel experience via the web. Now, if you look at this helmet, you can play with it online. This is being created directly within the web browser. But what you'll notice if I pan in on this helmet is that the reflections that you see are just as if you are standing in front of this helmet in the store. You have interacted with some form of hard plastic in the past, but when you can start to see the reflections and how that material comes together in the web, you naturally can associate and understand what this product is all about. The same thing holds true even with the lighting on the visor here. As you rotate around, you get an indication of what that visor attachment looks like and feels like and how it's going to respond. Or even if you want to understand what the innards of the helmet is going to look like, the fact that there are soft and hard plastic elements to the interior of the helmet. There are certain types of foam, right? You've experienced these things at some point if you've ever interacted with different types of sporting goods. And so you have a true indication of what this product is going to be like. I should have mentioned this from the outset. Whenever we do these webinars, there's a compression that takes place in the screen share. So if you have any interest in seeing, high visual fidelity, we definitely have a number of demos on our website so you can see for yourself. But oftentimes these webinars compress the images that are being projected on the screen. So if none of that's coming across, just thought to call it out. But it's not just about the visual fidelity. It's also about tailoring this experience to your buyer in a way that's going to make the most sense for how you want them to engage with your products. So in Zenith's case, they have different types of presets that are bestseller presets based upon positions in the field. They can guide their consumers towards certain types of mass types or helmet types. You can even create personalization and customization for, let's say your Little League team is signing up and everyone wants to have their name etched into the helmet that they're buying. Creating these types of experiences makes it incredibly easy for a customer to understand what they're going to get, but still offer that flexibility to make changes and understand all the different types of product variation that's possible with whatever products that you sell. And along those lines, when you offer personalization and customization as a part of how you sell your products, you never want a buyer to be inundated with too many options based upon the selections that they're making. So let's say, for instance, you want to make different types of selections to the shell style. When we're choosing from a solid shell, we only see that there's one base color option available to us. But as a consumer, I know that when I select that I want to split the colors down the middle, there's now an additional nested configuration option that I can choose from that ties in directly to the products that we're selling. And so if I want to make those changes, I can make those changes as I see fit to. And what's nice is you can tie this all into your manufacturing and order fulfillment process. So as I make changes in this product, what you'll notice above is that we have a dynamic SKU that's factoring into how this product is being compiled. So you never have to worry about understanding, hey, well, what product was fundamentally sold? We can dynamically compile and understand, hey, this is the true product that the customer is interested in. Here's how we've built this product. Here's how you will fulfill it. But even more so, part of this idea of interactive experiences is at the core of why Zenith was interested in visualization. If you guys can see the pricing below here, a Zenith helmet is $450. And so you start asking yourself, well, as a consumer, if I'm looking between two options that are, two photos, a $450 helmet versus a $50 helmet, why would I go with a Zenith helmet that's $450? Well, Zenith actually has patented technology. So if any of you are familiar with all of the health and safety conversations that have been going on with football relative to concussion protocol and player health, Zenith has created patented shocks that help to mitigate the risk of concussions when people are on the field. But they weren't able to truly depict and have people understand how those shocks factored into player safety. But because they now have an interactive 3D experience, their consumers can truly understand and know, well, this is why you go with the Zenith helmet. And in fact, what they've kind of indicated to us is that there's actually more education that's occurring on their product than there would be if they were, going to go in store to look at these things. But I think that was probably a good illustration of what we're talking about from an interactive 3D perspective. But the Threekit platform can create multiple types of experiences for your consumers based upon what makes the most sense for how your brand goes to market and how your consumers engage with your products. So for those of you familiar with the furniture industry, you may know of a company called Crate and Barrel. So Crate and Barrel has a wide breadth of furniture options for their customers. And when you were to visit a Crate and Barrel store, traditionally, you would sit in a couch, and right next to the couch, there would be a little 4x4 color swatch for the different types of materials that were available to, replace the studio model that was sitting there on the showroom floor. And what they started to understand is that that wasn't driving a very compelling experience. And at the same time, because of the amount of personalization and customization and all the different types of materials and fabrics that they offered, it was a huge exercise to create all the types of studio photography pictures that they needed to of their products. And so they came to us with this problem and saying, we need to show all the different iterations of how our products can be sold. And with the Threekit platform, we were able to create something like 2.4 million different renders for them of all their different iterations of their product to demonstrate to their consumers, hey, this is the exact look and feel of the couch that you'd be purchasing in the material that you're purchasing. And, you know, again, if the visual quality isn't coming across on the webinar, I highly encourage you to go to Crate & Barrel's website and see it for yourself. If there is a human being in the photo, it was not created by Threekit, but if it wasn't, the likelihood is it was created directly by our technology. About 90% of the furniture images on their site were created directly by us. But what this has unlocked is the ability to show their entire product catalog in a real meaningful way, as if they were paying for studio photography, which is a huge expense. And with this personalization, you can get a true understanding of all the different materials and how they would be layered onto different types of couches. And what you'll see is the shadows and the casting and, you know, how the light is being simulated off of this furniture is all built directly into the Threekit platform, is to create this type of virtual photography studio that enables you to drive these types of results. But not only can you look to change the materials on Crate & Barrel's furniture, they also wanted to do, offer the ability to configure how these chairs, how different types of couches fundamentally came together. And in traditional photography, that means they would have to manufacture one iteration of every single product that they sold. But with the Threekit platform, we were able to digitally recreate how these different options would appear without losing any of the visual fidelity that goes into product presentation. So all of these options that are available to their consumers online are created now by the Threekit platform. And they've noticed about a 30% uptick based on our last conversation on digital transactions. So with that being said, again, we wanted to show off a few different vignettes of how the platform can be leveraged and the types of experiences that you can create to really give that tactile touch and feel to your products online to increase conversion rates, reduce returns, and increase order value. And if this is something that you're envisioning saying, hey, you know what, maybe this is something that's right for our business, you're probably saying, well, how do I get started? And so maybe this is a good opportunity, Todd, for you to weigh in and kind of share a little bit about, you know, how to embark on these types of projects.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ben, and Annika as well. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Franiak, and I'm the Senior Director of Services with Threekit. So today, as Ben alluded to, I'd like to talk to you about what it's like to prepare both your team and your own mindset when thinking about a business transformation project with 3D technology. And so I'm going to talk to you today about the various pillars of actually getting ready for a 3D project or program. So the first pillar I want to talk about today is the idea of creating a 3D vision. Obvious, right? Wrong. So what is a 3D vision? Well, it definitely involves understanding how your customers buy. So, for example, if you're a car manufacturer, knowing what interchangeable options customers want to see on and off the car prior to purchase. If you're a furniture designer like Crate & Barrel, as Ben just showed, knowing what pieces on your website and styles will become popular and mainstream down the road and in the future. If you create an engineered item very similar to Venus football helmet, imagine your customers being able to see those interchangeable parts and areas of your product that can be enhanced. So by thinking about how your customers can benefit from seeing these virtual versions of your products, you can start to strategize how your business can benefit from increasing the exposure of product variation. Now, determining and quantifying these benefits will also play a major role in readiness. Since Threekit 3D technology will impact your public consumers, analyze those areas of your product marketing. So an example would be if 1 million people visit your website per year, but you're only getting 10,000 customers. Challenge your internal teams, your business, to determine what it would take to get 20,000 customers. And then ask yourself, can the impact of 3D models help get you there? Now, I'm not going to lie, creating your own vision is not easy. So take the time to review examples of 3D, what it's like for like Crate and Barrel and Zenith. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. And as you're doing that, your vision is going to start to come to life. And as that vision comes to life, establish an overall champion, whether it be yourself or somebody else within your internal team, early in your program process to own this process from start to finish. Thus, as you get that champion ready, the second pillar of readiness is to motivate your internal resources. Your identified champion should be positioned to follow any guiding principles that you set up and relate them back to those earlier business benefits. This person must also involve and motivate your resources prior to the start of a project. And so to help motivate your team, task them to conduct frequent visual reviews, both internally with the project team and even externally with actual users and consumers. Preparing this type of visual cadence before a program or project even starts will allow you to validate that 3D vision you developed earlier frequently as you progress through a program. One other note on motivating your resources, a good way to keep them engaged is to give them the power of control or a level of control during your design process. A Threekit project is typically agile-based and requires quick decisions on creative items. And so if this creative team is empowered with decision-making ability, you can eliminate potential ambiguity down the road. And so now you've got your creative team in process, your resources are ready, and the third pillar, of course, is to support their process, support this creative process in team. Now to support the team, you need to ensure that all of their pathways are clear. Identify who in that creative team is part of your internal decision-making team early to ensure that they're aligned to the guiding principles that you established earlier. Look to engage multiple internal groups in this process. So even though this is a online tool and your IT team will play a part in your 3D projects, you need to make time for your representatives from marketing, user interface development, and even maybe your sales teams to engage in that decision-making process. By engaging this creative team early, they can get a jump on determining if your consumer base is even ready for the buying experience change associated to your 3D vision. Encourage those teams to develop ways to gather feedback from your consumer focus groups. The less you try to proxy for your customers, the better feel you're going to get for public feedback on how 3D will actually impact your buying experience. And I'm going to slow down for a second and stress kind of that last point. In my experience, one of the largest misses in project readiness that a lot of our customers have had and continue to have is the idea of trying to proxy for their consumers. You don't know until you actually ask. Okay, so now once you have your people and support teams in place, the next pillar of readiness is to prepare your assets. So Ben mentioned this earlier, and I want to hit on it again, is one of the primary drivers for our customers using 3D realistic models is to reduce the cost of product photography. So in a photo shoot, you typically need to organize and stage your product permutations into ways your customers will want to see them. I mean, imagine Crate and Barrel trying to do that with 2 million plus configurations. With 3D though, you only need to imagine all of the ways your customers will want to see your product. 3D allows you to layer any possible product combinations without having to set up individual photo shoots for each possible configuration. So as you prepare for your project, think about product similarities, coverage on what types of combinations your customers will want to see layered together, and any available colors, styles, patterns, swatches, as Ben mentioned. So as you're preparing this data and your assets, there's one more step left. for readiness of a 3D project, and that's to plan for the future. So Threekit technology has been evolving now for almost 15 years, since 2005, and we've invested time into automating areas of complexity while simplifying areas of implementation within our tool set that allow our customers to greater engage their product differentiators. As such, as you become a member of the 3D modeling family, looking out 3 to 5 years on your product landscape will be very important for your initial implementation. So since 3D technology uses those layering techniques I mentioned to show your customers how configuration changes, considerations around how your products will be marketed 3 to 5 years in the future should be discussed early in your initial 3D modeling design. This allows you to leverage our technology in later years and eliminate those costly photo shoots while benefiting from the speed of the Threekit tools to get new product configuration in the hands of your customers, both online and potentially in those brick and mortar stores. So thank you very much, and I hope after seeing these 5 pillars of project readiness, it gets you thinking about what a project in 3D technology would be, and we hope you consider Threekit for that 3D project. So I'm going to turn it back over to Annika to moderate any questions or Q&A that came through.
Thanks, Todd. Now we're going to answer questions, and attendees can continue to submit their questions as we go. It looks like the first question is for Ben. How does augmented reality work, and can it be enabled in an app?
Oh, okay. Good question. So, once we have created a 3D model inside of our platform, Threekit has the ability to publish that file into multiple file formats. So really the 2 leading file formats for augmented reality are GLTF and USDZ. So in fact, if anyone on the call here today is using an iPhone and you go to Crate & Barrel's website, the Crate & Barrel website that we showed here today, they're currently doing an A/B split test. So you could use Threekit's augmented reality directly from their site. And so it sounded like that was kind of a 2-part question. Can it be enabled in an app? Yes, absolutely. This can be enabled in an app. However, what we really started to hear a lot of in the market is that, consumers don't want to download another app to their phone. If you're anything like me, I already have about 120 apps on my phone. I don't need another one. So being able to create these types of immersive commerce experiences that enabled solely through a web browser becomes a lot more powerful of an experience. So whether that browser is on a desktop or whether that browser is via a mobile device, we want these types of compelling experiences to be available under any facet. Good question.
All right. It looks like we have a few questions on project readiness for Todd. The first one is, what level of product photography is needed to start a 3D project?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that came up a couple of times, both with Ben and I, stating it is the idea of reducing costs due to reducing product photography. So again, imagine if Crate & Barrel actually had to take 2.5 billion photographs. Like it'd be a project that never ends. So the level of product photography is somewhat of a unique question. The answer is it depends, but it depends on the uniqueness of your item. So it is something that we can determine relatively early as we're preparing for a project. This doesn't mean you need 0% professional photography, but typically we use reference pictures to build our models. And what's important to know is that since we're building 3D realistic models, we need to know what your products look like in real life. And this helps us build out our modeling geometry. So an example with the furniture example, if you have completely custom built furniture and a number of, say, unique dressers or cabinets, we'll often need to see a picture of said unique design. But if you have a chair that uses a standard pattern, and a lot of customers, say for a dining room or something like that, will buy multiple chairs, we'll only need one picture of the chair, not a picture of every color of that chair. Essentially, reference pictures of a level of complex and then reference pictures of a level of simple. Now, sometimes studio photography can be very helpful, but really only for staging and display. So this is kind of where you cut costs. We need a few studio level photographs. Maybe one or two items can be photographed professionally to give us an idea of how your company likes to stage your products, right? So this is where that marketing team comes into play. It allows us to see their view, their vision, and then replicate the approach for 3D models. One other example, if you're not into the the furniture side of the business, but maybe for highly manufactured items, a lot of times in the past we've actually used existing CAD models. So if you're a manufacturer that has CAD models stored, we can use those files that you already have for advanced level of building assistance. And then again, just a reference photo. I mean, literally, you could be walking around with your iPhone and take a picture of a piece of robotics in an assembly line and just give us a photo of the products in the real world. It helps us with lighting, it helps us with dimensions, and it doesn't have to be done professionally. I could walk in there with my phone and take that picture. So that's an idea of the level. It definitely depends, but it's certainly drastic percentages lower than professional photo shoots typically take. Thanks, Anka.
Awesome. And Todd, what type of automation supports feature expansion?
Okay, that's a very good question, and I'll try to keep it simple. Like I mentioned in the portion of what I was talking about, we have been doing this for, the Threekit team has been together for 14, 15 years. And so over time, building out a custom application has turned into building a more automated application. So a few examples would be, we've built in the ability to search for specific things, specific nodes created within a scene. So to define it, to that picture of the helmet that Ben was showing was a scene. So, but what we now have the ability to do in an automated fashion is the ability to match some of those patterns. So it allows us or our clients later on to add additional nodes to a scene later to match said pattern, allowing the configurator to automatically pick up the changes. So changes in the, slight changes in the bar placement in face masks, slight changes in the lighting on the visors, for example, slight changes in the positioning of maybe those impact cushions would be an example. And we can set up the nodes to automatically change as the user changes the configuration. So it'll automatically pick up. You make a slight change to the data in the node, and it automatically will show in your environment. We can also set up a table-based configuration. So for those manufacturing customers to draw on data in a table to generate attributes and values available in the configuration without actually changing the backend logic. These typically provide a level of automation in that we can set up a one-click feature to reload any changes in the table. So if specific configuration options change at a later date, our clients can actually update the tables appropriately and then reload the data, and the changes are now available in the environment. So it's kind of set up as a input the data, one click, and they're ready. So I think those are a couple examples. I have a few. We're happy to, answer any questions through our website or in writing. If you want to reach out to one of us, we can talk further as well. So I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Perfect. And the last question is in regards to that slide that you have, the 5 pillars of project readiness. Is that the order that you suggest for project preparation?
Yeah, I'd say it's not a requirement. I've been working with configuration tools now for 8 years, and this is a suggested order. Some are definitely dependent on others. But when I'm thinking about readiness for a project, I think that if you're even considering some type of transformative configuration project, you should start getting ready now. And there are certainly some of those items that can start right away. For example, preparing your assets, preparing your data. that can start today, right? You don't have to wait for your 3D vision to start getting, you know, all those SKUs ready and all of the idea of what products you want to put together, involving your marketing team, getting your teams, just the thought that something's coming. You know, if you're going to do a 3D vision followed by determining a champion, obviously those two, you know, they're dependent on one another. You know, and what I would say though is one of the misses that I've seen in the past among the required order is sometimes people tend to skip past the idea of a 3D vision, and they tend to go with a general idea of that vision. And I would say don't skip out on number one. You know, even if you can't get it right away, get as specific as you possibly can on your 3D vision. A general idea just only is going to introduce risk further. So it's not a required order by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a suggested or recommended.
Okay. Looks like that's everything for today. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to continuing these discussions on future webinars.